Okay, so today we're really going deep, like way down the rabbit hole, with some wild theories about, you know, where people come from.
Yeah, it's going to get pretty out there.
Yeah, and this whole exploration comes from a listener who sent in some, well, let's just say intriguing material about extraterrestrials messing with our DNA and like how that could explain why humans are so diverse. This listener wants like a crash course in the weird and wonderful, so that's our mission for this deep dive.
Exactly. And I got to say, the material you shared, it really does present some, well, let's call them unconventional perspectives.
Right, like stuff that might make some people scratch their head.
Totally. And that's exactly why we're going to break it down step by step. We'll look at the arguments, we'll see what evidence is there, and hopefully make some sense of it all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So get ready, folks, because this is going to be a wild ride. All right, let's start with something that really caught my eye. Those Paracas skulls.
Oh, yeah, the Paracas skulls. So back in 1928, they found these 300 elongated skulls in Baracas, Peru.
Elongated skulls. Like
Yeah.
really long.
Yeah, like way longer than a normal human skull. And naturally, the first thing that pops into your head is cranial deformation, right? Like some ancient cultures used to bind babies' heads to make them grow into different shapes.
Yeah, I've heard of that, like to make their heads longer or flatter for cultural reasons or whatever.
Exactly. But here's the thing with the Paracas skulls, and the source makes this point. They're not just elongated, they're like huge,
Huge how?
huge in terms of volume. The source says their cranial capacity is about 25% larger than a regular human skull, and they're way heavier too, like 60% heavier.
Whoa, 60% heavier. That's a lot. So it's not just a matter of shaping a normal skull differently. There's something more going on there.
Right, exactly. And then there's the DNA analysis. A geneticist looked at these skulls, which are estimated to be about 3,000 years old, by the way.
3,000 years old. Wow, that's around the time the pyramids were being built.
Yeah, pretty mind-blowing. Anyway, this geneticist found mitochondrial DNA with mutations that are, get this, unknown in any human, any primate, any animal known so far.
Unknown mutations. So they're like completely unique to these skulls.
That's what the source says. And this geneticist is quoted as saying that these mutations point to a new human-like creature that's super distant from us, from Neanderthals, Denisovans, you name it, like maybe not even on our evolutionary tree.
Okay, so we've got these weird, giant, genetically distinct skulls from thousands of years ago. What's the takeaway here?
Well, the source is suggesting that it could be evidence of, well, something otherworldly, something beyond our current understanding of human evolution.
Okay, so we've got these weird, giant, genetically distinct skulls from thousands of years ago.
Well, the source is suggesting that it could be evidence of, well, something otherworldly, something beyond our current understanding of human evolution.
That's pretty wild. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about DNA, the blueprint of life, our genetic code. The source brings up the work of Dr. Vladimir Sherbak and Maxim Akoff and their paper, The WOW, Signal of the Terrestrial Genetic Code. What's that all about?
Okay, so this is where we get into biological SETI. The idea is if an advanced alien civilization wanted to leave a message that would last for like eons, they might embed it in the DNA of life on other planets.
So instead of looking for radio signals, we should be looking for alien messages in our own DNA.
That's the thinking. DNA is incredibly stable. It's like the ultimate time capsule. And these researchers, Sherbak and Akoff, they focus on the fact that the genetic code has some flexibility. There are multiple ways to code for the same amino acids.
Okay, I'm following. So there's wiggle room in the code.
Yeah, and their argument is that wiggle room could allow for deliberate modification. Their conclusion, and I'm quoting here, is that the genetic code appears to have been invented outside the solar system already several billion years ago.
Whoa, invented outside the solar system. That sounds like panspermia, the idea that life on Earth came from somewhere else in the universe.
You got it. And what's really interesting is that these scientists are approaching the idea of intelligent design, something usually debated in religious or philosophical circles, from a purely scientific extraterrestrial perspective.
Right, so it's not about a supernatural creator, but maybe about an alien civilization that tinkered with the building blocks of life.
Exactly. So we've gone from listening for signals from space to potentially finding a message hidden within us.
That's pretty mind-blowing stuff. Okay, let's move on to another intriguing theme in the source. Ancient cultures and their apparent fascination with, let's say, off-world influences.
Yeah, the source makes a big deal out of how many ancient societies were, in their words, obsessed with what they believed were influences from beyond Earth.
Can you give me some examples?
Sure. There are the Nazca lines in Peru, those huge geoglyphs that are best seen from above, like maybe meant for someone looking down from the
It
sky.
makes you wonder, right?
Then there are the pyramids of Egypt, with their crazy, precise astronomical alignments and building techniques that we still don't fully understand. And get this, there's even a similar pictogram found in several ancient cultures all over the world.
Like the same symbol.
Yeah, and the source even suggests, and I quote, "I think they want us to come and find them."
Okay, that's a little creepy, but definitely intriguing. What about those ancient texts, like the story of Ezekiel in the Bible?
Right, Ezekiel's vision. A lot of people, especially those into the UFO thing, interpret that as an encounter with aliens and their spacecraft. Wheels within wheels, fire from the sky. It does kind of sound like a UFO sighting, right?
It kind of does, yeah.
And the source points out similar stories in other cultures, like the Dune tribe in Africa and the Aztecs, with their tales of sky gods and visitors from the heavens.
So this idea of contact with beings from beyond is woven into the fabric of many ancient cultures.
Exactly. Whether it's literal or symbolic, it's a recurring theme.
Okay, let's talk about Eric von Däniken and his whole Chariots of the Gods thing.
Ah, von Däniken. He's the guy who popularized the idea that ancient civilizations were visited by aliens who were seen as gods. But the source we're looking at, they take a bit of a different stance.
Oh, how so?
They say, and I'm quoting here, that von Däniken's ideas were regurgitated whole cloth from ideas developed by the ruling class of this planet.
So they're saying it's not an original idea, but something that's been circulating among the elite for a long time.
That's their claim. They even suggest that for over 160 years, powerful people have been completely and totally obsessed with the idea that off-world aliens are controlling this planet and giving them hidden knowledge.
Okay, so now we're getting into conspiracy theory territory.
Yeah. The source mentions the X Club, a group of scientists in 19th century Britain who were really influential. They apparently believe that humans and other life forms were seeded on Earth by, wait for it, advanced beings from space.
So they're not saying that life evolved randomly on Earth, but that it was deliberately brought here.
Right? Directed evolution, if you will. And the source even points out that Francis Crick, the guy who co-discovered DNA, believed in directed panspermia, the idea that life was intentionally sent to Earth.
Wow, that's pretty significant. So are we talking about aliens as our creators or genetic engineers?
The source doesn't explicitly say, but that's definitely the implication.
Okay, let's talk about human diversity. The source brings up the idea that the time since modern humans appeared, which is about 250,000 years ago, might not be enough time for all the different race groups to have evolved naturally.
Right. They argue that the differences between these groups are just too big to have happened that quickly through normal evolutionary processes.
Okay, I see where they're going with this.
And they back this up by pointing to a speech by Craig Venter, one of the key figures in the Human Genome Project.
Yeah, I know who he is.
So Venter apparently said in this speech that the genetic difference between people, especially between different race groups, is up to a 2 or 3% difference.
Wow, 2 to 3%. I thought humans were like 99.9% genetically similar.
Right, that's what most people think. But according to Venter, it's not quite that simple. And the speaker in the source even says, and I quote, "It's almost Michael, as if they all came from different places in the universe."
So they're saying that different human groups might have originated from different alien sources?
That's one interpretation, yeah.
Yeah.
And the source even brings up the Anunnaki theories, that whole thing about ancient aliens creating humans for their own purposes.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Strange skulls, messages in our DNA, ancient myths, theories of directed evolution, and the surprising diversity of human genetics. It's all pretty mind-blowing stuff, to be honest.
It is. And just to be clear, we're not necessarily endorsing any of these views. We're simply exploring the ideas and arguments as presented in the source material.
Exactly. But it does make you think, right? So to wrap this up, I want to leave our listeners with a question. Given all this information, the genetic data, the ancient stories, do you think it's possible that our understanding of human origins is incomplete, maybe even completely wrong? What other possibilities are there that we haven't even considered yet? Food for thought, folks. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and until next time, stay curious.